You should know. You sent out a text.
I didn't remember.
Such a big little hammer, sir.
You send it. You send
Such a
it.
big cup. You do some scope. Found the
Exact
floor.
moment when Shiur finishes. We have time to think.
Alright. We're going. No, we're on good.
Yes, you can. Oh, not tonight after 10. Tonight after
Live.
10.
And we're recording. We're good.
Yeah, after 10.
Is this the right way around?
Okay, so the other night. Usually after 9. The other day is a bit more difficult. After 9 in the evening. Say, leave me a message. Call or text me or leave a message, okay? Whenever, and I'll get back to you later. Atzlacha. I just say very briefly a word about David Hashemovi. This word is the Bavitcher Rebbe, the last one. He wrote it in a letter, and I think it's a very nice word. David Hashemovi, Hashem is my light. In life, many times you don't know what's right and what's wrong. It's one of the hardest things, knowing what's right and what's wrong. So if a person davens to Hashem, Hashem provides him the light to guide him what's right and what's wrong. But even when you know what's right and what's wrong, it's not always easy to do the right thing. Why? Because you've got your Yetzaharas and everything else. So Hashem Oivi V'Yishi, He also saves me from all my Yetzaharas. Even that's not enough, just to save from Yetzaharas, but sometimes you want to get on with life, to do something great. Hashem is Chayai. Hashem does 3 things. He provides us light to know right and wrong. He saves us from the Yetzirah. His Mois Chayai gives us the strength to uphold the things that are important to us, like if you want to start up a new Seder, a new Puskers, a new thing. And it's a very sweet story. I just say very, very briefly. There's once a person got an invitation to a chasna, and he didn't recognize not the chasna, not the kala, not the parents on either side. And he wondered if he should go. We decided if already sent him an invitation, he'll go there. He gets there, doesn't recognize a single person, so decides to go. I was about to leave, gets tapped on the shoulder. The Kala wants to speak to you. The Kala there, goes, she says, did you recognize me? I'm very sorry to say, no, I don't. So she like this, years ago, he had been looking up something in the library. And he was benching loud when he was eating lunch, because he's been there for a few hours. So when he came to Rachimno, he said, which is not in our Siddurim. And she corrected him. She said to him that there's no such thing as V'lo Nikoshem. He says, it doesn't say V'lo Nikoshem. So he said, yes, it does. They argued a bit. And what was eventually he asked her for a dress. And a few weeks later, he found a siddur that says V'lo Nikoshem. So he took a big red marker, he photocopied a big red marker, and he sent it off to her in the post. What he didn't realize was this girl was going through a very traumatic time, and she was dating an Arab. And on the day that she decided to marry this Arab, she gets a letter in the post, just a photocopy, V'lo Nikoshem, don't stumble, in big, bold red. And she said that gave her a shock. That means Hashem Oive Yishi, Hashem Oiz Chaya. Hashem many times lights a person. Many times in life you don't know what's right. Hashem suddenly gives you the right idea, or Yishi gives you help from you. So main thing is to ask Hashem for yourself. Okay, we start the Mishnah Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the top. We all agree that you can't have 2 Eiruvin at the same time. Let's say I want to go east and west. You can't do such a thing. There's no such thing as having 2 Eiruvin simultaneously. We also all agree that you can't have an Eruv for half of Shabbos one way and half of Shabbos the other way. It means you can't split Shabbos in half. Let's say Shabbos morning you want to go to Whitefield, Shabbos afternoon you want to go to Manchester town. Nowadays it's all in Eruv. I'm just using it as an example. One is north, one is south. You can't do such thing. The Eruv has to last the entire Shabbos. The entire Shabbos. What is a machlokes, which is going to be a machlokes now for the rest of basically the whole of today, is like this. Shabbos and Yom Tov that follow one after the next. Do we consider, since Shabbos and Yom Tov are 2 separate days, one's Shabbos, one is Yom Tov, or Yom Tov then Shabbos, or Shabbos then Yom Tov, makes no difference. So if we considered completely 2 different days, since it's completely 2 different days, I can make an Eruv which will be for Shabbos, and a different Eruv for Yom Tov. So what I can do is I can say that on Shabbos I want to go east, and on Yom Tov I want to go west, as long as you will have the Eruv in place for both directions. Theoretically, people move it from north to south. Does that work? No, wait a second. First of all, you've got to have it by bin hashmoshes, and second of all, the more discuss the actual placing of the Erev has to all be done before the first of the 2 days. Okay, that's a good point. So again, one opinion, one opinion is that it's 2 separate days. There's no connection, and therefore you can have one Erev one and another Erev the other day. Another opinion is they're completely one, and therefore, since they're completely one, just like you can't have in the middle of Shabbos cutting and chopping your Erev halfway one way, halfway the other way, you can't have that regarding Shabbos and Yom Tov. And the third opinion is that it's we don't know, and since we don't know, we're going to have to be machmir both ways, i.e. But here because it's a suffix that it's serious, we don't say suffix on the kulam. So you could end up with being the worst of both situations. Okay, well that's the 3 questions of the 3 opinions that we're going to discuss brilliant. Again, let's see the Mishnah inside. We pass on Rabbi Lezer, by the way, that Shabbos and Yom Tov are 2 completely different days, and you can actually make an Erev one day for Shabbos, one day for Yom Tov. The next Mishnah, interestingly enough, discusses Rosh Hashanah. Because I don't know if you're aware that regarding all Yom Tovim, we say it's a suffix if the first Yom Tov is right or the second Yom Tov is right. The exception is Rosh Hashanah. Is right, you heard it. Not only is it always 2 days, but more than that, it's considered Kedusha Achas. It's all one Kedusha. You can't, okay. So this is selected. So bless you. Yom Tov has some Shabbos. Yom Tov is before Shabbos. Bein Milfoneh, i.e., if Yom Tov is a Friday. Bein Milachaver, if Yom Tov is a Sunday. Then, whether Yom Tov is a Friday or a Sunday, you can do 2 Eiruvin. And the more explains, we'll see you have to do them both before Yom Tov and Shabbos come in. And he says like this: Eiruvi berishin lemizrach. On the first day, I want to go east, or b'sheni the second day lemarav, or the other way around, berishin lemarav, b'sheni lemizrach. On the first day, I want to go west, the second day east. Or Eiruvi berishin, the first day I want the shvi and eruv, or b'sheni kibdei iri. On the second day, I want to be like the rest of my town, i.e., I have no eruv, I can go wherever I want. Or I want the second day to be at Eruv. Or Bevishin Kibnei Iri, on the first day I should be like in a town. So Rabbi Lezer says a person can make 2 separate Eiruvin on 2 days, one Shabbos and one Yom Tov, and then choose whatever he wants, the first day, second day, or only the first day, only the second day, or what else. Chachamim say no. You can choose one direction or none at all. So you can decide to go east for both days, or not to go east either day. You can do an Erev for both days, or you can't do an Erev at all. And the Gemara asks, this second statement is completely superfluous, because that's exactly what we're trying to say in the first statement. What are they saying? The Ikka is that you could do an Erev for both days, or not at all. And that Erev for both days has to be for the same direction. So therefore, if you choose to do east, you go east. If you choose west, you go west, or you can't have an Erev at all. So that's Shittas Chachamim. As we said, we're doing Pascha like Rabbi Lezer. What's the Svar of the Chachamim? It's interesting. It's a very strange Svar. But the Svar is that since the Gabe Eruv Tchumim, Shabbos and Yom Tov are exactly the same, so therefore they're considered to be one long day, and therefore it's considered just like you can't split Shabbos in half, as we started off by saying you can't split Shabbos and Yom Tov in half. Oh, that's a very good question. The answer is that this is not considered Eruch Nefesh, and even more than that, the Rishonim say that even if you made Erev Tafshilin, you can't rely on it. Okay, the Gemara explains. Not the Gemara, we'll see. Now the Gemara is asking, the Mishnah is saying, what should you do? This question is according to the Chachamim, but it's to do with a different problem. If I make an Erev for the 2 days, I have to know that the Erev is around for the second day. So let's say Yom Tov like this, Rosh Hashanah is on Sunday. So I want to make an Erev on Friday afternoon for Shabbos and for Sunday. So I have to make sure that the Erev is still around for Sunday. So what should I do? So in this case, it's slightly different. This is where the first day is a Yom Tov. The first day, which is a Friday, you take it. Means on Thursday evening you take it. You wait until it's Nacht. So then Thursday night it's Nacht. So once it's been there for a few minutes, once it's been there by Nashmoshes, you can take it away. So Erev Yom Tov, when Yom Tov comes in, you put the Erev Tchumim down. You wait for it to be Ben Hashmoshes, pick it up, and you go home, and the Sheni, Machshich Olav, the second day you go again to the place where you want to be, then you can eat it. Ubole, and then come home. So again, the first day, let's say, for example, you decide 5 days Yom Tov Shabbos is Shabbos, and you want to go both times, you want to go east. So what you do is on Thursday afternoon, just before Ben Hashmoshes, as Yom Tov comes in, you take the Eruv there, wait for Nacht, and then you take the Eruv back. Why do you take the Eruv back? Because you want to make sure it's still around for the next day. So therefore, you don't want it to get eaten. If you don't take it back, it might not be there. So you take it home. Then Friday afternoon, you go again. Because it's Yom Tov, you can carry. You can carry it to the 2,000 Amos place, put it down, and then check it. But so you gain that you'll be allowed to walk on Shabbos 4,000 Amos, and you gain that you're allowed to eat the Eruv, which if you would not have taken it home on Thursday night, and you'd have left it there, and it would have been consumed, you would have lost A, that now you've got nothing to eat, and B, that on Shabbos you won't be able to walk. That means if you decide on Yom Tov, on the first day Yom Tov, or Yom Tov is a Friday, not to wait around, just to leave the Eruv there and go home.
Why are we worried?
Right.
So it gets eaten. What's the difference between
Over here you do
the
for
normal Shabbos?
right, normal Shabbos,
It's also chashash.
right. The normal Shabbos, once Ben Hashmoshes has passed, even if it gets eaten, no, even if it gets eaten, if you're 100% sure it gets eaten, it's fine. Because the Eruv only has to be in existence for Ben Hashmoshes. Over here, you want to be able to carry both Friday and Shabbos. So you need it to last there for 24 hours. So therefore, you should really take it home to be sure that it's still there. No. That's the previous the earlier. What happens if it's a genuine suffix? But otherwise, if you got eaten on the first day, that means you put it there the first day, which was a Friday, and then you came back, you didn't bring it home with you, and you saw they got eaten. So on the first day, Yom Tov Friday, you'll be able to carry. You will not be able to carry on the second day. That's Shittas Chachamim, and they've explained what should you do. And they said like this: you should take it home. Then that way, you take it again. That way, you'll have what to eat the second day. Plus, you'll be able to carry the second day. If you're able to walk the second day, if you didn't do that, then what will happen is you'll only be able to carry the first and the second day. So Abelezer says to them, look, that words which you've just said, that's 2 different days. Because if it would all be one kedusha, like you said, then you should be able to carry both days. But Abelezer proves from the Chachamim themselves how they are contradicting their own opinion. Why? Let's explain. We have a din. On Shabbos, you can't split the Eruv in the middle. Right? You can't decide Friday morning I want the Eruv to go east, Friday afternoon I want the Eruv to go west. Why? It's one kedusha. Another din, if the Eruv is there a minute when Shabbos came in, that's good enough for the whole Shabbos. The fact they got eaten doesn't matter. You can carry on walking the whole Shabbos. We had the machlokes of Abelezer and Chachamim. If Yom Tov is a Friday and you made an Eruv for Friday, and a different Eruv for Shabbos, means for Friday you want to go east, on Shabbos you want to go west, whether it works. So Abelezer says it works. It's 2 separate days, 2 separate Eiruvin. Chachamim said no, it's all one day. Said to Abelezer to Chachamim, if you hold this all one day, so it should be like Shabbos. If it's like Shabbos, if it got eaten, it doesn't matter, because by Shabbos the halacha is if you got eaten the minute when Shabbos came in, you can still carry on walking the whole Shabbos. So according to your opinion, that it's all one kedusha. So why did you just say that if it gets eaten on Friday, you cannot walk on Shabbos because you've lost your Eruv? Why? According to you, it's all one kedusha, and therefore according to you, it shouldn't matter they got eaten on Friday. Says Rabbi Letzlechamim, you're proving from your own words, I can prove that it's 2 different kedushas, and that's why if you lose it, the Gemara will explain how the Chachamim respond to his challenge. Says the Gemara like this: the first thing the Gemara challenges is the words of the Chachamim seem to be superfluous. That means, or not at all, not like you are Abelezer, one day east, one day west. No, you can always choose one direction, or not at all. Or they say you can only do it for 2 days, or not at all. Says the Gemara, Levuach achas to one direction, my new. What do you mean, Lishnei Yomim? You mean the same direction for both days. And then you carry on saying the Shnei Yomi Mainu, the 2 days or none at all, that which you say, Luach Achas, you mean all in one direction. Hanu Kamai says exactly the same as what you just said before. Answers the Gemara, the first Chachamim argued with Abelezer in logic, and then they explain the halacha, meaning they're not repeating themselves. The first line is just to rebut, to argue with Abelezer, And then the second line is their opinion. So the Gemara says like this: Hochi kamli Rabbanan Rabbi Eliezer. Iyata moida, don't you agree regarding a normal Shabbos? That you can't do half the Shabbos north and half the Shabbos south. Avon. Avon means true. Where do we see anywhere in the Torah that Avon means true? Avon means true. Avon. Where do we see Avon means true? Avol Hashem anachnu. That the brother said when Yisrael, Avol Hashem anachnu. Truly, we are guilty that we sold this. Okay, Oman and Avol. Indeed, you're right. So they said to him, "Oh, you agree with us on Shabbos that you can't split it half-half? Keshem she'ein me'arvin liyom echad chetzi ledom v'chetzi letzaf. Just like you can't split Shabbos half north, half south. Kachin me'arvin lishnei yomim yom echad b'mizrach v'yom echad. So too, you can't." Because they understood that Shabbos and Yom Tov is all one Kedusha. So they were saying to him that just like Shabbos you can't split in half, you can't split Shabbos and Yom Tov in half.
That means you can't make an Eruv. If it's Friday and then Shabbos, you can't make an Eruv Friday, Shabbos.
That's right. According to the Chachamim, if you didn't make an Eruv Thursday afternoon, you want to make it on Friday, it's too late. Because they hold that it's one Kedusha, you have to do it right at the beginning. So now, going back to the words of the Mishnah, so what they were saying to the Chachamim said, meaning on a normal Shabbos, you can only do one direction, not at all. And then they say, so therefore, what should you do? Either do it for both days or don't do it at all. Rabbi Eliezer, what's Rabbi Eliezer reply? Hossam, thereby Shabbos Kedusha Achas, it's one Kedusha, Achas base Kedusha is two Kedushas. You can't compare Shabbos to 2 days of Shabbos and Yom Tov. By Shabbos, you can't split it in half because it's 1 day. Here, it's 2 days. Omaled Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Eliezer said to them like this: don't you agree? That if you made an Eruv on the first day, there are 2 ways to make an Eruv. Till now, we've always been talking about how to make an Eruv Tchumen. Put food there. There's actually another way to do an Eruv Tchumen. What's the other way to do Eruv Tchumen? Is to stand there. Because if you stand when Shabbos comes in, 2,000 amos away from your home, it's considered that you're koina shvisa that time, and that works. What? Yeah, that's right. The whole Nash Moshes.
So what's the point of doing it with food and making it like Shabbos?
Because what you gain is that you could take the food home with you, and then you can use it again, and we'll see. And also with food, you can always send it to someone else. That's the normal advantage.
You get a shliach to stand up for you.
Can you get a shliach to stand up for you? No, I don't think so. So again, so with food, you can send someone else with the steps to give yourself. Okay. So they said to the Blessed said to the Chachamim, you said that Shabbos and Yom Tov is one. So he said to them, don't you agree that if on the first day you stood there, then b'yom sheni, ma'abagav b'yom sheni, then you have to be there for the second day. If the Eruv got eaten on the first day, that you can't use it the second day. Then Blessed says to the Chachamim, you hold that it's one Kedusha. So let's see. What would you say if the Eruv got eaten up on the first day? You would say that's no good. Indeed, you're right. Yes. So he said to them, it's a proof. He should say, he should say, he says to them, that proves it's two Kedusha. So again, Rabbi Eliezer proves from the fact that you have to have an Eruv both days that it's two Kedushas. The Chachamim prove from Shabbos that you can't split it in half. Says the Gemara, but what's the swell of the Chachamim? Indeed, the logic is very strong. Answers the Gemara, they don't know. We're not sure if Shabbos and Yom Tov is considered to be one long Kedusha, or Shabbos and Yom Tov considered two Kedushas, and therefore you have to be machmir both. And therefore, you have to make a new Eruv you have to make a new Eruv for Shabbos, because the Eruv which you made when Yom Tov came in is not good enough. And furthermore, you cannot split Shabbos and Yom Tov apart because maybe it's all one Kedusha. Says the Gemara. Even according to you, that it's two separate Kedushas, you agree that on Yom Tov afternoon, you're not allowed to make an Eruv. You're not allowed to go on Yom to make an Eruv. You're right. Indeed. So they said to him, the fact that you can't make an Eruv on Yom Tov afternoon is about Kedusha Achas. Most of the Rebbe also you're not allowed to prepare for Shabbos on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to do anything on Yom Tov for Shabbos, even if you've got Erev Tov Shuli, because that's not considered Nefesh. Let's get so far what everybody does agree. Everybody agrees, both Rabbi Lezer and the Chachamim, that you have to prepare an Eruv both for Yom Tov and for Shabbos. Why? Because the Chachamim say maybe it's 2 Kedushas, and Rabbi Lezer says it's definitely 2 Kedushas. Everybody agrees that on Shabbos you can't split it because Shabbos is indeed 1 Kedusha. Everybody agrees that you cannot prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos. According to the Chacham, you can't prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos. Why not? Because they're being machmir that what? That maybe it's all one long day. And it's like in the middle of Shabbos preparing your Ritchum, and that will never work. So they say when Yom Tov is before Shabbos, you can't prepare your every middle of Yom Tov afternoon because it's too late. It's already come in until 1 Kedusha. According to Rabbi Lezer, you can't prepare it. Why not? Because of Achon. The Machlokes is only, can you divide it half-half? According to Rabbi Lezer, you can, because he holds it's definitely 2 Kedushas. So you can do it before Yom Tov comes in. Prepare 2 different Eiruvin, one east, one west. According to the Chachamim, you can't because maybe it's 1 Kedusha. Now the Gemara brings 3 opinions. One opinion like Rabbi Lezer, one opinion like the Chachamim, and one opinion completely that it's 1 Kedusha, both the Kula and the Chum. So I told Rabbanim, if a person makes an Eruv with his feet on the first day, he has to go again on the second day. And if his Eruv got eaten up on the first day, that is Shittas Rebbe. Who does that go like? Very good. Who's like Rabbi Lezer? That's Bamshak Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer said, "Oh, even that whiskey managed." Rabbi Lezer says clearly that it's 2 separate days. If you ate the first day, there's nothing left. Rabbi Yehuda in the top of Lama's Chesed base has a Chamol Gamol. He holds like the donkey was a camel. It was explained that the donkey you walk in front, the camel you walk behind. You pull them in 2 directions. So therefore, he says like this: what happened? Let's work it out. He made an Eruv for 2 days on Erev Yom Tov. So let's say he did it to the east. And then came along Shabbos and he notices the Eruv got eaten before Shabbos came in. So for Yom Tov, he was definitely fine because as long as it was there when Yom Tov came in, which he knows it was, that's fine. Regarding Shabbos, there's one of 2 options. Either the Eruv worked and then he's allowed to go east, or the Eruv did not work because maybe it's considered to be separate Kedushas. Maybe it's considered to be, maybe it worked because 1 Kedush, maybe it didn't work as a separate Kedushas. And then he can't walk east 4,000. So Alad said, if indeed the Eruv worked, he can't walk west, north, or south. And I said that it didn't work, he can't walk 4,000 amos. The only direction he can walk is east 2,000 amos. That's all he's allowed to walk. Because we're not sure if it's 2 Kedushas or 1 Kedusha. Who does that go like? The Chachamim v'A Mishnah. And if you went on the first day, why? Why not? Why do you have to go again on the second day? They're sure it's 1 Kedusha. So they hold mamish the extreme that even if it gets eaten on the first day of Friday, you put the Eruv Thursday afternoon, it gets eaten Friday morning, you can carry on using this Eruv for Shabbos. That's obvious. What we had before till now, there's
I was going to ask before. It seems obvious. It holds 1 Kedusha.
Yes, yeah, you're right. And I say extreme, I mean that they hold it both the Kula and the Chuma. You're right. There were 4 to be the Chachamim that held like Rabbi Lezer, we passed like Rabbi Lezer, and that's how we passed them. That what? That it's 2 separate Kedushas. The Omar base Kedusha say, Be'emin Abbas Kenim, who are the 4 Kenim? Ushim Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yochanan the Breaker, Rabbi Lozer, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda by Yehuda Stimtor. The word Stimtor means stam, general. Or a better word for stam is not general, anonymous. But meaning like this, Rashi says that every so often we have a Tana, which Rabbi Yehuda and Nossi really liked. And because he really liked him, he would often quote him anonymously, meaning that the halacha is like him. Stam Mishnah we pass the night. So Rav called Rabbi Yossi, like we would call today something Godel Adoy or Pesach Adoy or something. A big compliment in those days was to say he's an anonymous person, meaning he's someone that Rabbi often quotes anonymously because Rabbi liked his opinion. So what's like this? Rabbi Yehuda is Timtor, and Rabbi Yehuda who's the stam. Now, he said 4 people. 2 of them were actually mentioned in the last brisa, and they actually said exactly the opposite of Rabbi Lezer. What did they say? They said that it's not only is it not a suffix, but it's a vadai kedusha achas, to the extent that if the Eruv got eaten on Friday, you're allowed to walk on the Shabbos. If you look at the top line on our page, it says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel b'nei Shavich Me'oimim. You don't need to because you can rely on it. Says the Gemara, Well, sorry, I missed out that. Some say one of the four is Abelazar, you have to miss out a bit about base Babiot. Okay. So those are the four people. We just saw the whole other Rada, it's all one Kedusha Achas. Epoch, you have to turn it round. That top line should not say that if you took an Eruv on the first day, you can learn on the second day, but rather if you took an Eruv on the first day, you cannot walk on the second day because it's two Kedushas. And you Rebbe. There we had three opinions. Rebbe said the first opinion is two separate Kedushas. And now you're coming along and saying that they hold like that. If that's the case, it's exactly the same as Rebbe. That Rishon Gamliel indeed holds like that, and not that they argue. So the Bryce is only saying two opinions. That Rishon Gamliel and Rabbi Shmuel both agree to Rebbe that it's two Kedushas. Okay. So let's get it clear so far. We had originally the Bryce of three opinions. Shittas Rebbe, it's two Kedushas. Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, that we're not sure. Shittas Rabbi Shmuel, that it is one Kedusha, which we change it around to say it's two Kedushas. Came along Rab and says, we pass, but it's two Kedushas. Why? Because there are four Tanoim that hold like that. Rab was trying to find as many people to support his opinion. Why did he quote Rebbe and say there's five? Because Yehuda Nossi, bottom of Lamed Chesam and Aleph, told us that it's two Kedushas. Answers more, Rebbe was just repeating an opinion, but he never actually held it. If you say that, maybe the Rabbi Shimon on top of our page also never held of it, it was just repeating an opinion. Rav knew that Rebbe never held of it. He was just saying the opinion which he heard from his Rebbes, but he didn't hold of it. But the Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel did hold of the opinion. So we actually have four Tanoim that hold like Rabbi Lezer, that is Shnei Kedushas. Said Marcus, Kenoch Nafshid Rav Huna, when Rav Huna was Nifta, I love Chista, the Mimad Rav Rav, that he wanted to ask a contradiction from Rav against Rav. The Rav said that what? That is considered two Kedushas. Mi Amar Rav Aloch Gavas Kenim, did Rav really said Aloch is like the first Kenim Valley with Rav Lezer, the Mara Shnei Kedushas, saying that it's two separate Kedushas for Itma. Shabbos v'Yom Tov. Rav Omar no de Bazeh, Asur Bazeh. An egg born on Yom Tov is forbidden to be eaten on Yom Tov. Why is it forbidden to eat on Yom Tov? So actually, the Gemara base of the first daf gives many reasons. It was no lad is one of the reasons brought. It was not muchan, it's muktzeh, it's kseiot. So the halacha is that is only forbidden on the first day Yom Tov. On the second day Yom Tov, it is mutter. Why is it mutter the second day Yom Tov? Because b'mon hashach. If the first day Yom Tov was a weekday, so they was born on the weekday, so it's fine. And the second day is Yom Tov. If the first day is Yom Tov, the second day is weekday, so it's fine. Came along Rav and said, not only on the second day Yom Tov it's mutter, but even if the first day was a Yom Tov and the next day was a Shabbos, so he says, not even, sorry. He says, but if the first day was a Yom Tov, the second day was Shabbos, you're not allowed to. Why? Because maybe, let's say, for example, this year, an egg is born on Shabbos this year. Would you be allowed to eat? Of Hashanah, anyway, we don't hold like that because of Hashanah we're Choshesh, that is one Kedusha Achas. Let's say Sukkot would be Friday Shabbos. You would not be, if an egg would be born first day Sukkot, you would not be allowed to eat it on the Shabbos. You can't say B'mon Hashach because maybe the first day Sukkot is the real Yom Tov and it was born Yom Tov, you can't eat the Shabbos. Now, if you hold it Shtei Kedushas, it's two separate Kedushas, what's the problem? Noilad. In the end of the day, by the time Shabbos comes in, it's not Noilad. Why does Rav hold it's also? The only logic that can be is that it's one Kedusha and it's one day. Says the more Rabbi Omar Rabbi Hasam Mishmachon. There's a problem of Achon, you're not allowed to prepare. You're not allowed to do anything on Yom Tov to prepare for Shabbos. Oh, I'm going to get to 1 second. This comes to an interesting point. The Tanya, on the sixth day you compare Chol Mechin the Shabbos, a week to compare Shabbos. Chol Mechin the Yom Tov, a week to compare Yom Tov. Yom Tov Mechin the Shabbos and Shabbos Mechin the Yom Tov. You can't compare Shabbos for Yom Tov and Yom Tov for Shabbos. And this is a Xeris that the Torah says that they prepared the food on the Friday for the Mon, and only you can't prepare on Yom Tov for Shabbos. If you look on Tosfos, Lamed Chesam and Aleph, bottom Tosfos, Tosfos says this Tosfos brought down in the book a number of times in Hilchos Erev Tavshil. Tosfos says B'Shum Achana, is the Achana D'Oraisahi? It is Min HaTorah. And this taste makes a huge nafkamina. Since we've got a few, I'll try and explain the nafkaminas like this. Everybody knows you're not allowed to cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. To get by it, what do? Make Erev Tavshilin. Erev Tavshilin, is that a Deraisa or Drabbanon to Kedin? It's Drabbanon. Now like this. If you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos min HaTorah, how does Erev Tavshilin help? There are two main mahalchim in the Rishonim. One mahalch in the Rishonim is that cooking on Yom Tov to Shabbos is mutter. Why is it mutter? Because it's no different for cooking on Yom Tov for Yom Tov. All the Gemara over here says v'chidus asher yovidu as a pasuk. It's asmachta. So only with Rabbanon they felt it's not nice on Yom Tov to cook for Shabbos. It's the zilzul. So therefore, if you start preparing before Yom Tov for Shabbos, that's the idea of Erev Tov. So you're showing that you're already set your mind for Shabbos. It's not a zilzul on Yom Tov, and then you won't come to do it for other things. You won't come to cook on Yom Tov for weekday. So if you've got Erev Tov, you're allowed to cook for Yom Tov for Shabbos. That is one mahalach in the Rishonim. Another mahalach in the Rishonim. This is the tesis. This tesis that is the hachana is min haTorah. You're not allowed to cook min haTorah. So tesis asks, how can you cook? Look at the next line of tesis. Meaning like this. Min haTorah, you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. Min haTorah, you're not allowed to. But if I cook Yom Tov afternoon for Shabbos, what's the problem? Cooking for Shabbos? No, I'm not. If an important guest would knock on my door, what would I do? I would take the food which I cooked for Shabbos and give it to him on Yom Tov. So therefore, in fact, what I'm really doing, I'm cooking for Yom Tov. Cooking for Yom Tov is mutter. It's only, it might be the guest might not come. So for that, it's only Issa D'Rabbanon. So for that, Erev Tavshilin works. Let me like this. One way is to look at it as cooking for Yom Tov to Shabbos is actually never forbidden in that. It's only D'Rabbanon. And that's how Erev Tavshilin works. Teis over here says, no, it's awesome in HaTorah. Only since you've got the option to always say, I'm cooking for guests, therefore it's permitted. Because since Chazal, even Ohel Mikra Oichen still forbade it with D'Rabbanon. So therefore, you need the Erev Tavshilin to get around because Chazal didn't permit it. So what's the nafkamina? What difference does it make? The big nafkamina is like this. If you start cooking a huge pot of cholent just before Shabbos comes in,
Can't expect guests.
you can't expect guests to come. Let's say you'll only be ready an hour before, 5 minutes before Shabbos comes in. So then you can't expect guests, they're never going to eat it. If you hold that it's awesome in HaTorah, and the only reason why it's butter is maybe because guests will come and be forbidden. Says Mishnah Bur, because of this tesis, he encourages all the kehelas to bring in Shabbos early when it's after Yom Tov. That way, nobody will be cooking on the last minute because once the Shabbos not. So if you cook sometime before, don't cook a huge pot of cholent that should only be ready 2 minutes before Yom Tov, Shabbos comes in. Because if you do that, you can't rely on the Holy Mikra, maybe guests will come. And then you can't rely on the Erev Tavshilin. That is the thing. This is a very long Avichos Mishnah Bur. Is it tough? Sadly, something where tough Chavches or something where tough Chavches we discuss Erev Tavshilin. Okay, so it says they were like this. So the word says like this. That again, let's get it clear. Rav holds that it is really Shnei Kedushas. And that is why you're allowed to make 2 separate Eiruvei Tchumin, one for Yom Tov to go east and one for Shabbos to go west. Why is it that an egg which is forbidden on one is forbidden to the other? Answer of Achon. Only Abai. What should he do? On the first day of Yom Tov, you walk, wait for Nacht. When you take it home, come home. When you take the Eruv Techumin on the second day, that is Yom Tov afternoon, in preparation for Shabbos, you're doing Achana. When you go Yom Tov afternoon, you took it, again, you go Yom Tov Friday and then Shabbos. The Thursday afternoon, before Ben Hashmoshes, you took the Eruv Techumin there. Then what happened was you waited for Ben Hashmoshes and you took the Eruv Techumin home. And that way to protect it. Then you went again on Friday afternoon. When you were walking Friday afternoon to take it to the Tchum, you're being meichen. When does the Eruv take place? When the new day comes in, not when the old day goes out. So when does the Eruv actually happen? The first second of Shabbos, on the new day, the first second of Shabbos. And then it's already Shabbos. And there's no Issa to prepare on Shabbos. Therefore, we're talking about the Eruv is Chal. Oh, you're walking. We'll discuss that later. The walking will have to take place before Shabbos comes in. But the Chalois Eruv takes place only when Shabbos comes in. Oh, the first second of Shabbos can means that as Shabbos comes in, the Shabbos v'chidolatza. If you remember, we had a whole complicated story. A person has a jug, which is Tommy. He toveled it. But what happened was it hasn't yet been Erev Shemesh. Because it hasn't been Erev Shemesh, this jug can make things Tommy. What things can it make Tommy? Only Truma and Kodshim, not Maisa. So he's got a big jug, he filled it with Tevel of Maisa, which needs to take Trumas Maisa out of it. You can't drink it now. Why can't you drink it now? Because you haven't taken Trumas Maisa from it. You can't make it Trumas Maisa now because it's still a Tvul Yomi, it hasn't waited for Nacht. So what does he say? He says when Nacht comes, it should become Trumas Maisa. And then that way he sorted everything out. When Nacht comes, let's say Nacht is 8 o'clock. So when that happens, it's no longer Tvul Yomi. Then the jug becomes Trumas Maisa. And then you can give it to the Kohen, there's nothing, no problem. But the halacha is you can't use it for Eruv Techumin. You should use it for Eruv Techumin. Even though the first second of Shabbos makes the Eruv Chal, but the halacha is that you have to have food which you couldn't eat before Shabbos came in. This is an interesting question from what asked. It's a complicated question, but it's a geschmack question. Like this. Rabbi Lezer says in our Mishnah, if a person wants, he can make 2 Eruv Techumin. Right? Imagine, picture it. Here, this is the room, and you go one direction there, 2,000 amas, one direction there, 2,000 amas. And you make one Thursday and one Friday. Let's say you put it somewhere safe, you know it doesn't get eaten. The food on the Friday, which direction are you allowed to walk? Only that way. Are you allowed to walk 500 amas in that direction? No. 2,000 amas, certainly not. So when Shabbos came in, were you able to eat that food? Absolutely not. So how can Rabbi Lezer say, you have to question, brilliant question. How can Rabbi Lezer say I can make an Eruv on Thursday afternoon and Friday afternoon and decide that the one for Friday should be for the East and the one for Shabbos should be for the West? No. The one for the West, I won't be able to get that. I'll never be able to access that food. How would you have done it?
Just have in mind the other way around. Potentially you could have had the other way around.
When again?
When you set aside the Eruv.
And then you were able to do this in the Shabbos one.
Because you could have perfectly set aside.
I'm not sure how you do that. Again, you want to have the ability on Yom Tov to walk east and on Shabbos to walk west. So you put each time a loaf of bread 2,000 amas in each direction. But how can you on Shabbos? You will never be able to get to that. You'll never be able to get to it.
Before Shabbos.
That's right. You can't get to it before Shabbos, and you have to be able to get to it before Shabbos. It has to be a sort of a way. Says like this. And all the time, Shabbos before it, Yom Tov after it. Now, Adam Shnei Ruvin does 2 Eiruvin. Obino Sudo V'Boy Joy Meleka. And says, "Mom, you saw this Semanachei B'Sef Alpayim Amalekan B'Sef Aban Amalekan. Did you think that he's putting it 2,000 amas in each direction? No. Semanachei B'Sef Elef Amalekan B'Sef Elef Amalekan. You do 1,000. Let's work it out. If I do 1,000 east and 1,000 west, so then on Yom Tov I can walk 3,000 in that direction. On Shabbos I can walk 3,000 in that direction. When Shabbos came in, 5 minutes before Shabbos came in, how far am I allowed to walk in this direction? 1,000. So I can still get to my Eruv Techumin because I only put it 1,000 amas away. I didn't put it 2,000 amas away.
Put 1,000 one end, you still get 1,000.
That's right. Put 1,000 one end, you get another 1,000. And in fact, the halacha is that the whole city is considered as 4 amas. Let's say Manchester is 5 miles by 5 miles. And you put it 1,000 amas on east of Manchester, then you know what you're allowed to do? You're allowed to walk 1,000 amas to get to Manchester. Then the whole of Manchester is counted as 4 amas, your 4 amas, and then you have to walk another 1,000 amas, or a bit less, west, because the whole town is considered as 4 amas. So since you only did 1,000 that way, you can then do another 1,000 that way, and then you're okay. Is it clear? Says the Lord says, if you did the Eruv on the first day, you have to walk the second day of the past B'Yom Rishon, not the past B'Yom Sheni. Okay, make him to the Shabbos. Now the Gemara asks the question, but the walking, the preparation is considered hachana. Never mind that the Yom Tov, the Chalois Eruv you said is Chal on Shabbos comes in. with the walking. Amalei, Bisavist Ozav Amamiti. Who says we're talking about where he's walking and talking? The Ozav the Shosik Yosef. And what he does is he walks to the end of the tchum, sits there without saying a word. Without saying a word, that is not considered hachana because nobody knows what you're doing. Says the Gemara. Yes. Command Krab Yochanan Benui. The Omar Hefze Hefke Koinin Shvisa. Here you need a little bit of introduction. It's like this. What happens if you if something is not, if I own a cup, so wherever I'm allowed to walk, the cup is allowed to walk. A person's items which a person owns, they have the same area that the person is allowed to go himself. So wherever you're allowed to go, your cup is allowed to go. So let's say I make an Eiruvin east and you want to take my cup west, you're not allowed to. Why? My cups have the same possession as me. What happens about something that wasn't owned by anybody when Yom Tov came in? That's a machlokas. That's a machlokas. What happens? Do we say they can be taken anywhere? Or do they have 2,000 amas from the place that they were found when Yom Tov came in? That's the question. That means an ownerless item, right? You go for a walk on Yom Tov afternoon and you find an item. And that item was, you cleaned it from Hefka. Does it go according to where that thing was 2,000 amas Yom Tov came in? Or can you take it only where, you can take it anywhere. Wherever you want to go, you can take it. That's a machlokas. The Gemara says that machlokas is dependent on another machlokas. We just said that where you are when Shabbos comes in, that's where you're koine shvisa. What happens if you are fast asleep and somebody was carrying you in a wagon, and when Ben Hashmoshes came, you were 1,000 amas out of the town, fast asleep? Could you say, look, since you were 1,000 amas out of the town, so you are koine shvisa 1,000 amas out of the town, so now you can walk another 2,000 amas? Or do you say, wait a second, how are you going to be koine shvisa? You're fast asleep. You can't consider that to be a mental decision that this is where you're going to be for Shabbos. So the Gemara later discusses that the machlokas regarding an ownerless item is similar to the machlokas what to do with a person sleeping. Do we say that you're koine shvisa without thought, or do you need thought as well? That's the Gemara's machlokas. Says the Gemara over here, because of the problem of achana, we're saying that what did this person do? He walked 2,000 amas on Erev Yom Tov in one direction. And on Shabbos, on Friday afternoon, walk 2,000 amas in the other direction to be koine shvisa. It says, well, what about achana? What did Rava answer? That he does it without saying a word, and that way it doesn't look like achana. Does that mean that he's only going according to the man da'oma? That even when you're fast asleep, you can be koine shvisa? Just like you're saying you koine shvisa over here without saying a word, which seems to be saying that you have to have no thought. Similarly, you can be koine shvisa when you're sleeping without thought. Is that what Rav is trying to say? Only according to that man da'oma? It says the Gemara command that even without any thought, you're koine shvisa like hefka. Afilu tim rabbanon, even because of rabbanon. Ad kan lepi rabbanon le'davich v'noy le'bi yoshen. Delay matziama. When they argue is like this, a sleeping person, he's obviously has no thought and he can't protest, and therefore he doesn't know what he's doing. So therefore, when you take him and he's sleeping in a carriage 1,000 amas away, you can't say, well, he's koine shvisa because he's fast asleep. Mashayin can over here. And the svara is obvious. It's like this. If you're sleeping 1,000 amas away, so that doesn't prove anything. But when you are walking and you say nothing, if you never want to be koine shvisa here, what you would do is, you would say, I don't want to be koine shvisa here. The fact that you say nothing, but you're awake and you're mentally alert, and you know that you're koine shvisa, that's enough. So therefore, the Gemara says that you can't compare it to sleeping. Sleeping, you've got no say at all. You're not thinking anything. But here, you know exactly what you're doing. You're fully awake. And your decision to be koine shvisa, that's good enough.
The second he wakes up in the work, that's where he's koine shvisa.
The problem is he woke up after Ben Hashmoshes. Since he woke up after Ben Hashmoshes, he's becoming koine shvisa anyway. So therefore, there's a machlokas. Either he's koine shvisa when Hashmoshes came in while he was sleeping, or where he originally was when he went to sleep. That's the machlokas. Okay. Says what when Rabbi Bar Chonin Abaya. Yeah, but Shmuel in a if Rabbi would have known how the Tanya. A person shouldn't walk on Shabbos into his field to see what it needs, right? I mean, so let's say, for example, you've got an extension, right? You're letting moving from one house to the next. So the next house is being renovated. So you're walking for Yom Shabbos afternoon. You can't walk around the house that's being renovated to see how the builders are doing on Shabbos afternoon. You shouldn't stand outside a gym or bathhouse, you fight your Shabbos Motzei Shabbos because you want to go to the gym straight away Motzei Shabbos because it looks not good. So over here, the same thing. When you walk 2,000 amos, Rabbi said it's not problem of Achona. Why is it not problem of Achona? Because you're saying nothing. What do you mean you're saying nothing? Everybody can see that you're walking. So, Rabbi would have been chayzer. The fact that Rabbi wasn't chayzer must be he never knew this. It says more beloy shemiya alei, he knew it. Beloy hodabe, he never changed his mind. Why? Hasam then when you're walking around the house, mucha milsa. Everybody can see the reason why you're walking around that field is why you want to renovate it. If it's a Talmud Chacham and people see you walking 2,000 amas, only they say Shema to Meshachte. He's so engrossed in his learning that he has no idea what he's doing. Also, says looking for a donkey. This is what we're going to stop. The word says like this: when a person walks around the field, everybody knows that if you own a field and people see you walking around the field, people say, I know why you walk around the field. Why you walk around the field? Want to improve it. So therefore, what happens is, it is considered a zilzal in Shabbos. Masha'enkin over here by Rubei Tchumit. If it's a Talmud Chacham and he's walking 2,000 amos, people will say, I know why he's walking 2,000 amos. Because he's so engrossed in his learning, he's not thinking about it, he doesn't know where he is. And if he's not a Talmud Chacham, they'll say, he's looking for something which he got lost. Radi Yosef was once learning on Sefer. He was so engrossed, he was standing on top of a ladder. He was so engrossed that after a few hours studied there, he forgot there was up of a ladder. He walked off it, fell and broke a leg. So Eliashib came to visit him in hospital. And Eliashib was somebody that never wasted a moment. Once talked about the fact that he never spent time with Shul neither. So they said to him, how can you do such a thing? Getting so much time to visit someone in hospital. We took up a lot of time. If somebody can be so engrossed in his learning and doesn't know that he's standing on a ladder, it's worthwhile to visit an hospital. So one says that somebody who's walking out of the time, we don't know that Ashkenazi is walking in his field. First, let's be careful. Make Erev Tchumen only if you need it. No, it's not a mitzvah to me. No. Only if you need to go. Yeah, you were missing you. Very good. Okay.
How's he feeling? Now you got to play.
He's found his way out. He's finished everything.